This is the Juicy Astrology for the new moon in Capricorn, January 2nd, 2022. I'm Divinely Jennifer. Welcome. Beauties, welcome to Against All Odds, the Juicy Astrology for the new moon in Capricorn on January 2nd, 2022. I'm Divinely Jennifer, intuitive astrologer, nurse, naturopath, and mama love warrior. Happy New Year and happy new moon. This new moon feels like the perfect new beginning to initiate ourselves into the rituals and discipline of our divine roots and into our awakening towards the new earth. As I mentioned in the Juicy Astrology for December 27th through January 1st, the energy of polarity is building. We're feeling the pressure. This does not at all have to be scary, not if we are tapping into the gifts of Capricorn. I'll show you what the chart looks like later in this video so that you can see the squeeze we are all in. A little housekeeping before I go into the juicy details of this juicy new moon. First, I'm not hosting a new moon webinar with this new moon because of the Venus retrograde retreat I am co-facilitating. However, I'm going to dedicate this entire video to the new moon and then record a separate one for the rest of the week through the first quarter moon on January 9th. This is a huge week, especially for retrograde Venus, as she makes two big conjunctions in Capricorn, including her star point with the Sun. We won't hear from Venus again until she stations direct on January 29th. In the coming weeks, you may find yourself wanting to take a lot of naps as a way to nourish your inner child and rekindle your divine essence. Again, I'll talk more about this and her star point in the next Juicy Astrology video. I'm also going to be doing something new with this new moon video, and that's incorporating energy of some of the gene key wisdom associated with this new moon. For those of you not familiar with the gene keys, they combine astrology, the I Ching, human design, frequency, and the inspirations of Richard Rudd, the living mystic who channeled the gene keys several years ago. And you can find more about the gene keys at genekeys, GeneKeys.com. And I'm not affiliated with the gene keys at all, but to me, they're such a magical, amazing way for self-discovery and insight that I'm really seeing this energy correlate. So whether or not you are a gene key devotee, I hope you'll appreciate the energy and clarity they'll bring to this new moon. Please let me know in the comments below how you feel about this. And if you dislike my video, I sure hope you'll tell me why. And with no further ado, let's get to the Juicy Astrology for the new moon in Capricorn on January 2nd, 2022. This new moon occurs at 10:33 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6:33 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time at 12 degrees 20 minutes of Capricorn. Capricorn is the cardinal earth sign. It is initiatory, grounded, and deeply committed. Capricorn has earned my respect for its gifts and tenacity the more I study it. And, as a sensitive Cancerian, I've had to work hard to come to understand Capricorn, which I think is just what Capricorn wants. The roots of a tree have to be strong and healthy for it to survive a harsh winter. In the same way, we have to have strong structures and foundations in place in order to overcome the obstacles that we encounter on this path called life. This new moon is associated with Gene Key 38, which covers 9 degrees 30 minutes to 15 degrees 7 minutes of Capricorn. The shadow is struggle, the gift is perseverance, and the siddhi, or highest frequency, is honor. Just like Capricorn, it seems straightforward, yet it's infinite in its depths. In the polarities and pressures of the current world, we have to ask ourselves, what are we actually fighting for? What are we struggling against? For some, the answer is easy and clear and comes right away. For others, the struggle is about the fear of death. We all know we're going to die at some point, but will we survive until then? Okay, you have to appreciate the irony of that. This is a thing. We got to keep surviving until we die. Well, yes, that's the whole point. The shadow of this new moon, as well as the next new moon in Aquarius, perpetuates groupthink or hive mentality. Some people use the derogatory term sheeple. I do that sometimes too. There is a lot of derogatory language used out there for one side of the fight, describing the other side. You against us, them against us against them, us against you. One can get enmeshed in the shadows if you're unclear about what you're actually against. I'm not sure if Mother Earth is laughing at humans right now or shaking her head in disbelief. Most everyone is fighting for their proverbial survival, but she's already got it worked out. Can we please all just stop to take a breath to see how hard we're making it for ourselves? When you are very clear on your purpose, no matter how big or small, the fight takes on a whole new meaning. And this purpose must be rooted in service and love. The highest frequencies of Capricorn are all about selfless service. I'll talk more about this in a minute. Capricorn teaches us that you have to transform the fight into the discipline of perseverance and determination. The only way to the top of the hill is by taking one step after the other. Sometimes you may miss a step. Sometimes you may have to go back a few steps, but it's still taking one step after the other. One step might take 5 minutes, or it might take 5 years. Time is irrelevant here. Capricorn teaches us to commit every day with our heart and soul. What are you committed to? Is it fear? Why? Is it love? Why? Like I said, it doesn't matter how big or small the commitment or goal. I've committed myself to doing plank and child's pose every day. I'm up to 2 minutes each, and I want to get up to 5 minutes each. I'm adding 5 seconds each morning. At this rate, I'll reach my goal in February. Man, is it a struggle some mornings. My muscles start shaking and wobbling. I have to focus on my breath. I want to give up, but I don't. Why am I doing this? It's about what they represent to me physically. Strength and flexibility, tone and suppleness. In some ways, it's for myself. A little representation of my inner warrior and my inner goddess. And yet, if I'm strong, if I'm supple, that translates physically into mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I can use my gifts much more readily for the greater good. It's all about love. I'm planting roots, love roots. For so many of us, our purpose is to bring more love into the world as we awaken to the consciousness of the new earth. As hard as I work, perspire, and persevere, though, I cannot do it single-handedly. And honestly, I wouldn't want to. Together, though, wow, when we each commit to our goals, our gifts, our purpose, and then join forces, this is where things get really juicy. Wonder Twin powers activate. I'm seeing this in the Venus retrograde retreat that I'm co-facilitating. The women there are slowly changing, dare I say, becoming more beautiful inside and out. Their energy is shifting and lightening because they are committed to doing their part for the greater whole, to keep shining their light through what feels like insurmountable challenges and obstacles sometimes, except they're totally surmountable together. If your hiking partner has a rock in their shoe, you're not going to say, well, tough, and keep going without them. Not when you need them to help you climb over a challenging area, and not when they're carrying the picnic lunch. You have a shared purpose. But if your hiking partner says, forget it, I'm giving up, let's go eat donuts, then what? Do you give up or find another hiking buddy? Because you are determined to get to the top of the mountain one way or another. Capricorn doesn't like to be alone. Like I said earlier, one of the shadows of both Capricorn and Aquarius is the energy of groupthink or the sheeple. The shadow side is tribalism, survival of the tribe, no matter what the cost to others. It's also bowing to the leader. We're seeing a lot of this right now. People have chosen their tribes, their leaders, and they are fighting hard. The collective has forgotten that they are sovereign. It's lost down a deep hole. The shadow side doesn't care about the casualties because it's not personal. It's business, and Capricorn is all about business. It's not personal to hurt someone else, but boy, does it become personal if the tribe feels threatened. Sometimes the fear of death and the fight for survival can bring people together in beautiful ways. This is epitomized in Laura Ingalls Wilder's book, The Long Winter, part of her Little House series. If you haven't read it, go read it. It will make you so appreciative of modern heating conveniences. The whole town had to come together to survive the long winter. They had purpose. It was a team effort. Everyone shared what they could. Everyone took risks for their community, and they made it through one of the harshest winters the Dakotas had ever seen. Partially because Pa also had the wisdom to listen to one of the Native American elders nearby. But we'll talk about that during the Juicy Astrology for the full moon on the 17th. That's the key to unlocking the gifts of Capricorn energy. Each person has a gift to share with a common purpose. A family making a meal, a sports team wanting to win the championships, a non-profit organization wanting to help people, a company, again, if the energy is being used properly, which it so seldom is in today's business world, but some companies are working towards it. People with a lot of Capricorn in their natal chart can be great leaders. Usually Leo gets the credit for leadership. Capricorn also can have good leadership skills, but people with strong Capricorn energy being used in the right way, and that's an important caveat, it has to be used in the right way, don't usually take the credit for their work or leadership. In fact, they're not super comfortable in a leadership role. They tend to get thrown into it. They manage to bring a team together and say, let's go, and then suddenly they're hoisted into the leadership position. They're servant leaders, leadership for a cause, and that cause is almost never their own rise to fame, fortune, or wealth. They want the world to be a better place, and they are in service to this cause. It's when someone gets power hungry that we have problems, and that's definitely possible with Pluto and Capricorn right now. If they aren't in it for the power and glory, though, they're in it for love and service, and they end up being very powerful leaders. I think of my friends Tom, Gail, happy belated birthday, by the way, Gail, Patricia, Ava, and Jeff. They're not afraid of the climb. More importantly, they know it's not about them. It's so far beyond themselves as an individual. This is how each and every one of them thrives. They help other people thrive, who then help others thrive. It's about thriving, not survival. It's a magical upward spiral when everyone is sharing their light. What you don't see behind the curtain is how much they take on, because they make it look so easy. They're working harder than anyone, but they don't show it, and they rarely complain. This is one of the challenges and lifelong lessons of those with strong Capricorn energy in their charts, and honestly, for so many others in the world, to ask for help. Not to be stoic and feel like they have to carry the burden of the world on their shoulders while they're climbing up Mount Everest. My partner will literally take my shoulders and lead me out of the kitchen when I have a lot of astrology work to do. I don't have any planets in Capricorn in my chart, but I do have a stubborn determination to do everything myself. So true. Because the other challenge of Capricorn is that we get stuck in the obstacles and structures. We feel the restrictions and limitations. Instead of surrendering and asking for help, we struggle even harder. If I fall into a deep hole in the earth, I can exhaust myself trying to climb out when there's nothing to grab onto. I scrape my hands raw with nothing to show for it. Or I can yell for help and someone can throw a rope down to me and help me climb up. See where I'm going with this? Sometimes we feel there may not be another human can help us in a particular situation. Ask the divine for help. Ask Mother Earth, ask your angels, ask God, ask the universe, ask all of them. The spirit world is always on the ready to help us, like a love army. but we have to be willing to ask for help first. So this new moon in Capricorn asks us to meet our obstacles through surrender, surrendering to love and purpose versus gripping with resistance to the structures that rely on fear for their own survival. This is the pressure we are all feeling in the world right now. This new moon invites us to choose as a way to release the pressure. We can lock in with rigidity and dig in our heels like a ram, stubborn to the death, which we're trying to avoid, or we can fully surrender to our hearts, our purpose, our gifts, and to divine love. This choice will not necessarily beckon immediate change or big changes for you, especially not right away, though it may relieve you of some of the pressure you've been feeling, and it should relieve you of some of that pressure. Think of this choice, ideally a choice of love over fear, of purpose over purposelessness, of surrender over struggle, as a seed. The seed will take time and will need the right resources to germinate, sprout, and grow into something solid. It may take days to grow, or it may take a lifetime to become a tree. Unlike the Sagittarius new moon, which was a solar eclipse on the south node, this new moon in Capricorn is practically begging us to set an intention with this energy. You must create the seed in order to create the tree. Even though this new moon happens during some of the coldest, darkest days of winter, at least for us in the Northern Hemisphere, we know that spring is coming. And if you need help setting an intention or figuring out this purpose, I invite you to book an astrology and health reading with me at www.divinelyjennifer.com. Before I go into the details of the Juicy Astrology for this new moon, I want to take a moment about our health and well-being during this Capricorn lunar cycle. Many people are already starting to feel the depressing effects of darker days and long nights, what is effectively termed seasonal affective disorder or SAD. Clinically, this has been associated with lower vitamin D levels. So if you need help locating natural sources of vitamin D, please send me an email at hello@divinelyjennifer.com. There are some good products and some not so good products out there, and it's important that we're not self-medicating. One product that will never steer you wrong is nature. For those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, get out into the sun as much as you can, even if you have to bundle up. Nature is truly the best antidepressant on the planet. Astrologically, the new moon has only a few transits. Let me show you for a minute. Do you see how everything is on one side of the chart? It's called a bowl chart. This is how we feel the pressure, the squeezing. It'll be like this for the next several months, save for Ceres, the goddess of fertility and conception, reminding us how fertile we are and how we can always create anew. And you can see how the new moon up here in Capricorn is pretty closely or loosely, depending on what terms you use, conjunct to Juno, the goddess of marriage and intimate partnership. She is also in a pretty close trine to Uranus and Taurus, and she's square to Chiron in Aries. All right, let me come back to me now. Give me just a second. So as I said, this new moon is loosely conjunct to Juno, the goddess of marriage and intimate partnerships. The new moon asks us to partner closely, intimately, and get committed, especially to those working towards a similar love-filled purpose. She's also in that close trine to Uranus, just like the Virgo new moon was in September. Get creative and innovative when it comes to overcoming some of the obstacles in your path. Listen to the wisdom of Mother Earth. Get quiet in nature to help see solutions. With Uranus still square to Saturn, you have to ask which structures need to stay and which ones go. The mainstream wants to cut off love through restrictions and limitations, but you can so go around anything with Uranus's intuitive flashes and ingenuity. And the new moon is in that square to Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries. Chiron is having a tough go in Aries since he arrived here in 2018. It's about the wounding of the individual, coming to terms with your own wounds so that you can then help and mentor others. You can see with this new moon, there are many people taking up the fight right now on behalf of those wounded or harmed by the government or corporations or both. More on Chiron in a minute. One of the most important aspects this week, and that impacts the new moon, is Jupiter's T-square with the nodes of fate. Jupiter reminds us that there are benevolent forces so much greater than us. He is the great magnifier and expander. This T-square urges us with some urgency to move towards our purpose and soul path, lest we stay locked in old patterns or beliefs that don't serve us. Choose your future. This is the last new moon with the North Node in Gemini and the South Node in Sagittarius until February 2039. So this transit feels especially important. Juno, retrograde Venus, and Mercury are all feeling the energy of their conjunctions to Pluto, and so we're also feeling them. Pluto in Capricorn is authority, power, sovereignty. Do you want someone to have power over you, or are you sovereign? Being sovereign means being liberated and free in mind, body, and spirit. For those awake to it, we find ourselves in a dance between fighting for our sovereignty and surrendering to it. It's a bit of a paradox. Sometimes there needs to be a fight. Capricorn understands that. But when we surrender to sovereignty, the release of the pressure and tension is practically ecstasy and bliss. Another part of the paradox is that this new moon wants us to empower ourselves and others. This is a tricky one sometimes. Empowering is not coercing or convincing. Coercing and convincing come from the shadows. Empowerment comes from the light. Empowering is liberating others through our voice, our love, and our gifts. As a nurse and a naturopath, I love to empower others to make healthcare choices that feel good to them by teaching them all the ways that nature can help us heal. I can't very well say, well, you're stupid because you're not taking my advice, or you're a bad person because you're not making the same choice I would make. That is neither sovereignty nor empowerment. I have to trust that whatever seeds I have planted are for good. Now let's come back to Chiron. If you're going to fight, and I understand that there are times we need to fight, and there are souls here on this planet meant to fight, recognize that you can A, choose your battles. Not everything has to be a fight. And B, choose your weapons. Battles fought for fear through violence and corruption will always lead to more battles. They create a vicious loop. Chiron learned this the hard way. He was shot by one of his own poison arrows. The wound was so painful that he gave up his immortality. Not that Medusa would have been taken down by love. Or would she have? We'll never know. At risk of losing a few of you, I want to talk about Jesus for a moment. He was the ultimate Capricorn, right? I know many scholars believe he was born in the spring, but just humor me for a minute and pretend that he was born during Capricorn season. And then we can tap into his incredibly high frequency of love with this new moon and its lessons. One of the most famous quotes from the Bible is when Jesus said, "Love your enemies." The greatest heroes see not only those they love, but more importantly, their enemies as their highest self. They see past the shadows, the hate, the persecution, and look right at the other person's gifts and light. Instead of going for the jugular, they go for the love. That is their weapon. Love is their weapon. My client Lisa uses the mantra inner being to connect with others from a place of love. This is a mantra we can all use for this Capricorn lunar cycle and beyond. There is so much more that I could say about this Capricorn new moon. Energy flows where attention goes. I know that the obstacles can seem overwhelming right now. Ask for help. both from trusted partners and from the world of the divine. Focus your commitment, your dedication, and your might on coming together through love and purpose. And you can't go wrong with this new moon. Keep choosing the path of love, and against all odds, you'll persevere. If you need help choosing your path, you know where to find me, www.divinelyjennifer.com. Happy New Year, beauties. This has been the Juicy Astrology for the new moon in Capricorn on January 2nd, 2022. I'll be back with the Juicy Astrology for January 2nd, part 2, through the first quarter moon on January 9, 2022. I love you. I'm Divinely Jennifer, and I'll see you the next time.